First question today is from Kareth Burke, NBC Sports Bay Area.
Thanks, Michael, and hi, Steve. I'm jumping right in with a question about LeBron James. His basketball IQ is so high that he can anticipate plays and blow them up. What are the challenges of facing LeBron specifically, especially when he's familiar with the tendencies of Steph and Draymond?
Yeah, I mean, we've probably played against LeBron 40 times over the last, 6-7 years, maybe more. I don't know. I don't know what the exact number would be. So LeBron is always a brilliant basketball player in every facet, and that includes his defense. Last time we were here, he made 2 or 3 steals early in the game on some of our pet plays, kind of slips, and so we've got to do a good job of executing and be aware of where he is and making sure we're making solid decisions.
Next up is Wes Goldberg with Bay Area News Group.
Hey, Steve. Just a couple things. Number one, just checking that everybody practiced today.
Yes.
Okay. And then were you able to draw anything from the film of those first 3 Lakers games, considering that Anthony Davis didn't play in most of them?
Oh, yeah. You still gain quite a bit watching those games. Obviously we're a very different team now than we were then. We think we're a lot better now than we were. But our personnel is different too. We're playing a little bit differently, just with smaller groups. And they still represent the same challenges. They're a massive team, excellent defensively, and they've got championship experience. So we know the challenge ahead.
And then if I could do one more question here. Going back to when you decided to put Kent Bazemore in the starting lineup in April, what made you go with him over some of the other guards that you had available?
Well, the one thing that we wanted to establish right away this season was becoming a good defense. And so we were going to put our best defensive players on the floor, which we did. And we established ourselves early as a top 10 defense. When Kelly went out, the choice between Baze and, say, Deedley, Mulder, Jordan Poole, it was really all about defense. Baze is the most experienced of that group. He's the most capable in terms of using length and athleticism on the ball. He's also started tons of games in his career, and he was familiar with Steph and Draymond from having played with them, previously. So it was a relatively easy choice. Bringing Jordan off the bench has been great. He gives us a lot of punch, and Mike Mulder has really filled in well with Damian Lee being out, and of course Kelly's absence has meant that those guys have had to play bigger minutes. So they've all done really a great job over the last 20 games since we made those changes.
Thank you. Next up is Jason Dumas with Cron 4.
Thanks, Mike. How you doing, Steve? A couple of weeks ago, I asked you just how you felt about the play-in tournament. And you said in jest, ask me once the regular season is over. Well, here we are. You guys got, three cracks at it, or 2 cracks at getting into a playoff position. How do you feel about this situation, this tournament at this juncture of the season?
I love it. I think it's been great for the league. I think it's kept the interest in late season games much higher. We had really interesting mini battles in the standings, teams trying to stay out of the play-in, at 7 and 8. So you had kind of a mini pennant race going on for 5th and 6th. And to me, it made the last month of the regular season much more interesting. And even as a team, now who could potentially finish 8th and not get into the playoffs, I think that's okay. I don't mind that. I think it's a good trade-off because it's all about what's best for the league. And in recent years, the last month of our regular seasons have been really tough to watch in many cases. I think the games were much more interesting this year.
Monty Poole, NBC Sports Bay Area.
Steve, I want to test your memory a little bit, and if you can go back and recall maybe one or two games that you really hated your defense, didn't like it at all, and then maybe a game or two where you thought, okay, this is who we can be. If you can identify those particular games.
Well, there's plenty of both. I mean, the Dallas game at home a few weeks ago is probably the one that I remember in terms of how we can't play, not being engaged, not playing with great energy. Anytime you play a small lineup, you have to be flying all over the place. And I thought that night our energy and our effort was not there. But that might be the only game in the last 20 that I could point to. As far as really good efforts, there are plenty of those to choose from. Over the last 20, we're number one in the league in defensive rating. So let's see. I thought the Utah game recently, I thought our defense was pretty good, especially against a great opponent and a team that has a size advantage over us. That kind of effort and scrappiness is what it's going to take.
Next up, we have Allie LaForce with TNT.
Hey, Coach, great to see your face again. It's been so long.
Hi, Allie.
Hey there. Back from when Steph led the league in scoring in 2015, 2016 to now, what has brought you the most joy in the way he creates and has evolved at his age and carrying so much the load this season?
I think his leadership, Allie, is probably the biggest difference. On those teams, he was still kind of the young guy. He had plenty of veteran players who could handle the leadership role when necessary with, so many guys, Andre, David West, Zaza, Andrew Bogut, Sean Livingston. So during those early years when I was here, Steph really didn't say much and he didn't have to. And now he recognizes that he's the veteran on this team. And so he's shown a lot more of a tendency to speak up in the locker room when needed and to lift the guys up however he needs to do that. And that's very much a sign of growth in terms of what he's meant to our team.
Is the assumption with the Lakers that they'll do some blitzing, some doubling, some zone, they'll sort of mix it up all game? And in that situation, can you describe to me just the high level of communication between you and Steph and this team, being a younger team, on the constant adjustments that you'll be making along with the Lakers defense?
Yeah, I mean, the good news is we've seen pretty much everything now over the last 20 games. Because our team is built differently now with more shooting and better spacing, it means it's a little easier to adapt to all the different defenses that we see. And we anticipate they're going to throw the kitchen sink at Steph. Multiple defenders, different matchups, some blitzes, some kind of shadowing, that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. But as I said, we've kind of seen everything. Steph has seen everything. Draymond is probably the key guy in terms of, when they do throw stuff at Steph, Draymond has an answer with all of his screening and dribble handoffs and that sort of thing. So they're fun to watch together.
Thank you, Coach. Looking forward to it.
Anthony Slater with The Athletic.
Yeah, what are kind of the pros and cons for you when you face a team like this where Draymond probably has to be pretty locked into an individual matchup like Anthony Davis compared to in a game where he can roam a bit more and not worry as much individually?
Well, the pros said, we've got, I think, the best defender on earth guarding one of the best players on earth. You always want to be able to go in and have a matchup for a guy like Anthony Davis. And I think that outweighs the cons. The cons are that, Draymond can't play as much center field, which he's really good at. But, the number one thing going in is you got to be able to guard Davis, because if you can't guard him, then you got to double team him, and that opens up everything. So it's great to have Draymond playing at such a high level, and we'll see how the game goes, and we'll adapt as we go.
Next up, Nick Friedel, ESPN.com.
Steve, Draymond mentioned the other day that he felt like you guys are hunters now instead of being hunted after the last 5 or 6 years. Specific to Steph and Draymond, how much do you think they're enjoying not just coming into this game, but however long this run goes, flying under the radar a little bit more compared to what it's been like during that run when you guys were going to all the finals?
Yeah, it's a totally different kind of season. And so you celebrate the smaller victories in a season like this. And I think that's really healthy. When you go 5 straight years of, win the championship or bust, it's incredibly stressful. And it's exciting, and you wouldn't want it any other way, but it adds up. And so I think this year has been refreshing in a lot of ways. It's been a really meaningful season for our franchise in a lot of ways. And that's important. I think our fans have really enjoyed watching our young guys grow, watching our team evolve. I think our players themselves have expanded. Draymond, to me, is playing as well as he's ever played. So is Steph. Andrew Wiggins has found a great role with this team and has played at a high level. Kevon Looney's healthy again. You got all these young guys, Jordan and Mike Mulder and Juan, who've seized their opportunities. I mean, this is all great stuff. It's so healthy for our organization. And within that, you celebrate these victories, you celebrate the successes, because you're not in a position where if you lose, everybody says your season was a failure. So it's just brings a different perspective. And I think our players are enjoying the season quite a bit.
We'll do 2 more for Coach Kerr, starting with Connor Letourneau and then Mark Medina.
Steve, how excited are you to see Juan in a postseason environment? And are you pretty confident that he'll be able to maintain his level of play in this type of environment?
Yeah, Juan was built for playoffs. I mean, he's a really confident, aggressive, competitive player. And guys like that can't wait to play high stakes games. So I think Juan is really excited, and I'm excited to see him play more than anything. I'm excited to have him on our side.
Hey, Steve, good to see you. Obviously, Draymond's always been so valuable to you guys, but how have you seen the past 2 years, him handling the entirely new team dynamic, and how do you think that may have evolved from last season to this season?
Well, I think what's different from last season is that he's got the help that he needs. I think last season was overwhelming in terms of just the injuries that we had suffered and the losses. I mean, you talk about KD and Andre and Sean and then Clay and then Steph on top of that. Like, it didn't matter, what Draymond did last year, we were going to really struggle. And so it was a frustrating season for him. This year, there was hope right away. Even in spite of Clay's tragic injury that, cast such a pall over us in training camp, you still had returning players who could help Draymond carry the load, in particular Steph. And so what I've seen is Draymond has returned to his high level of play, his confidence, his competitiveness. It's all there. He looks like the same guy that I've known for the last 7 years. And that's exciting because, to me, Draymond is one of the very most impactful players in the league when it comes to winning. Thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow.